Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1355B, and today's date is August 14th, 2017, and the title of the episode is The Elite Move Ahead with Their Agenda. The Chaos Has Just Begun. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as we know, YouTube, they're cracking down on different videos on the internet. Now, they're labeling them as extremist content, and they're making this whole gigantic narrative of why they're going after these certain videos and why they're going to be taking them down and how they don't fit the community guidelines. Even if they do fit the community guidelines, they look for different ways of saying that we cannot show this video. And what we've been noticing is that they're going after all those videos that might question the official story of what has been going on during Obama's reign and going back in time. And what it looks like to me is that YouTube is not really going after the extremist content, or they're going after content that doesn't fit their guidelines. They're getting rid of anything that might show that something is not what it seems. And we can see this with the Sandy Hook shooting. We can see this with other different videos that have been taken down. And I think what's happening right now is that the deep state, they're in trouble. They realize this. And of course, the corporate media, the deep state, the elite, they're pushing as hard as they possibly can to push their agenda. This is what we're seeing right now. This is why we're seeing a lot of this chaos. We know who's behind it. And at the same time they're pushing their agenda, trying to retake control, they're mopping up. And they're instructing these social media sites to mop up, to cover up what has been done. And they don't want people looking at this or any evidence to show what has been done. So they're just getting rid of them. And this way, they can basically clean house and say there's nothing there. And this has been going on for now a couple of months, actually, I think almost a year now, where they're continually doing this. And we can see there's one site called Air Wars, where they have their videos being taken down. I know on Spotlight, the Sandy Hook video, that was taken down. And I know SGD Report, there was a shooting video that was taken down. And there's many, many others where they're reporting that their videos are being taken down, saying that, you know, here's a strike against you. You're not adhering to our guidelines. But really, when you look at the videos and you listen to them and you see them, you can see that there was nothing really against the guideline. They just don't want them up there. And I think this is their main objective right now. It is one gigantic mop-up operation. Now, out in North Korea, South Korea, we can see that the corporate media, they've been pushing the agenda like there's no tomorrow, that North Korea is getting ready to attack. And of course, we have Trump out there saying, "Ooh, if North Korea does attack, we're going to hit them hard." He knows, those individuals know that North Korea is not going to do anything. Actually, coming from South Korea, we can see that, well, North Korea is really not going to launch a missile into Guam. South Korean Defense Minister Song Young-moo said that, yeah, they might have the ability to hit the island, but they're really not going to conduct this attack. And it makes no sense that they would do this. Why in the world would they do this at all? It makes no sense from a strategic standpoint, because North Korea, first of all, that would give the excuse for the United States to go into North Korea, remove the leader, and they know with the coalition forces around the world, North Korea would be completely wiped out. So there's no reason for Kim Jong-un. I mean, people think he's crazy, he's, psychotic. He really isn't. And what he's doing is he's trying to quickly get a system with that can deliver a nuclear weapon, to develop a nuclear weapon, because he knows eventually, and he's seen it before in Ukraine, in Syria, in Libya, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and many other countries, he knows the deep state eventually will come in and remove him. And he knows the only deterrent is a nuclear weapon. Now, China and Russia, they're trying to calm the situation down. They've created this multi-step plan where they want all sides to come together and talk about what is happening. And of course, they want the U.S., South Korea to stop with the drills. They want North Korea to stop with the missile testing, the nuclear testing, and they want both sides to freeze everything. Now, China, to try to nudge North Korea into doing this, they've implemented more sanctions. Now, of course, Nikki Haley, she didn't want the sanctions on North Korea. Of course, she wanted an invasion. She wanted to wipe North Korea off the map. But China said, well, wait a minute, let's go with the sanctions, and overruled the United States. And basically, China, they've implemented sanctions. They've halted imports of coal, iron ore, seafood from North Korea, and this starts on Tuesday. And again, they're trying to push North Korea into working with China, working with South Korea, working with the United States. And they're hoping, China's hoping, that if they do this and they see North Korea saying, okay, we will freeze our system, we will freeze our nuclear testing, now it's up to the United States and South Korea to stop the drills. And we'll have to see how this plays out. Now, we see that the United States, there are no armed forces on alert whatsoever. We see that, coming out of the corporate media, coming out of Washington, they're all talking about, we're going to hit, we're going to strike. But when we take a closer look at the Pacific, what do we see? Well, we see absolutely nothing. Military forces in the Pacific are just sitting there. They're not doing anything. They're not maneuvering someplace. And if we look at the warships at Yokosuka, the warships are just sitting idle. So all that we're hearing right now is a lot of people talking about nothing. It's just propaganda from the corporate media. Trump is just out there saying, well, if North Korea does something, we're going to strike back. And he knows that North Korea is going to do absolutely nothing. It makes no strategic sense. And of course, him saying this sounds scary and it sounds like we're going to do something, but he knows right now that nothing's going to happen. The only way it can happen is if the deep state sets up a false flag. That's the only way. Now, out of the New York Times, they reported that Ukraine has been the country that has been basically supplying the missile engines to North Korea. Now, remember, Ukraine was taken over by the deep state. There was a coup d'etat where they took the elected leader, they threw him out, and they put in a puppet leader. And they were hoping to basically gain control of Ukraine, gain control of the gas network, gain control of the Black Sea port, and that completely fell apart. And we know that deep state still controls Ukraine, and Ukraine still answers to the deep state. Now, according to this report, North Korea has been making the purchases on the black market, and they've been purchasing these rocket engines. And we can see right now that once again, the deep state likes to do this. They supply an enemy with, weapons of mass destruction, chemicals, and then they turn around and they say, oh, look what they have. We need to go in there. And it looks like they're doing the same thing in Ukraine. We see Russia is out there and they're saying, something? The U.S. campaign in Afghanistan, it has failed, and Washington needs to withdraw its troops. So Russia is coming out right now saying enough is enough in Afghanistan, and it's time for the U.S. to leave. Now, the U.S. Department of Defense, they've spent more than $76 billion on weapons and equipment for the Afghan security forces since 2002. And from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, they're saying that Washington has paid for 600,000 weapons, including rifles, pistols, for the Afghan army and police. The key equipment provided included 163,000 tactical and non-tactical radios, 76,000 vehicles, such as Humvees, 30,000 equipment items for disposing of explosives, such as bomb disposable robots, and 16,000 equipment items for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. They also spent an enormous amount of money on paid mercenaries in Afghanistan. And Russia is absolutely right. There is no reason for the United States to be in Afghanistan. Of course, we know they have the poppy fields. This is a CIA operation. They're trying to control China and Russia in Afghanistan. They like the strategic location. But in reality, after all these years, what has the U.S. accomplished in Afghanistan? Absolutely nothing. Now it's time for them to leave. We see Lavrov. He is working with Haftar, and he's saying that Russia supports a full-scale restoration of the Libyan statehood. And Lavrov is saying we want peace, we're going to work with Haftar, and whatever the people want. So we can see that Russia is moving into the Libyan space right now, just like they moved into the Syrian space. And the deep state, they are losing their grip in the Middle East. And we can see this is completely obvious that Russia and China, they're working economically with all these countries, and these countries will be making bilateral trade agreements. They'll be making currency agreements. They'll be making agreements where they completely bypass the dollar, and it's just a matter of time. The Russian defense minister out in Syria saying, listen, once we remove the Islamic State out of Deir ez-Zor, it means the end of the Islamic State, and they're very, very close in doing this. Basically, everything in Syria that the deep state tried to do, it is completely falling apart. And there's nothing the deep state can do at this point. I mean, I think at this time it's so far gone that there's nothing they can do. Russia and Syria, they're going to completely retake the entire country. Now, the Russian military advisors, they participated in an airdrop, and they did this behind the ISIS defense lines. And this was all in preparation of the Syrian army, where they're going to make a huge offensive and remove the Islamic State between Homs and Raqqa provinces. And we can see right now that the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, they're completely all doomed. But the deep state is not going to give up. We're going to see a lot more chaos. And like I said in the past, we have until Labor Day. So here we are in the middle of August right now, and we're seeing chaos all over the place. Right now in the Inspire magazine, this is the Al-Qaeda propaganda magazine, they're saying they're going to be hitting subway trains, other types of trains throughout Europe, in the United States, and they have these derail devices, little explosives, where they're going to derail trains and kill a lot of people. And you can see, basically, they're just pushing the propaganda, pushing the idea of terror. They have nothing left. They're running out of things to do. And we can see that they're going to try to make one last push. And when I say they, I'm talking about the central bankers, the deep state, those individuals, the elite who are behind all of this. They are going to continually push the chaos to the extreme. Now, over the weekend, we saw that in Charlottesville, Virginia, there was this man that ran into a crowd of protesters and basically killed a woman, hurt something like 19 others. And the woman that was killed was Heather Heyer, age 32. And the man who did this is James Fields. He is 20, and he is from Ohio. And the man accused of being a neo-Nazi and murdering a woman, well, it's being reported that he was a supporter of Hillary Clinton and a member of Antifa, and in receipt of funding by George Soros. And the mainstream media, well, they're not really reporting on any of this. And we could see that, well, this is all part of George Soros and what he's been trying to do. He's trying to create a civil war in the United States. He's trying to get something started. And what's very interesting about all of this is that the police, once again, were ordered to stand down just before the incident. The ACLU, they confirmed this. And when this rally was being organized, and this was the Unite the Right, they had to go to federal court to protest against the city because they tried to revoke the permits which was going to allow them to have a peaceful protest. And the federal judge ordered that the rally must go on and the rally goers' constitutional rights must be protected. Now, they didn't want this to happen. They didn't want this rally to happen. And we could see that they were trying to shut it down. Now, when you look at the footage that was captured by different citizen journalists on the ground, we can see that there were two cars. They were moving very slowly ahead, and it looks like it was some type of gray Dodger. The windows were tinted out, and that car just came in and slammed the two cars ahead of it, and then backed up and tried to escape. Now, again, you can't see who was in the car, and the car backed out. It went off camera, and you really couldn't see, where the car actually went. But of course, the police made the arrest. They already identified the person, and they're not really talking about who this person is. I mean, they're saying that, he's a white supremacist, and they're going on, and they're saying that Trump is not denouncing this, and of course he did, but they're trying to make this into a big deal. This is all part of the George Soros push to create civil war, or to get something started here in the United States. Now, we know that Antifa were part of this. We can see there were some crisis actors that were contracted by the company. And this has all the hallmarks of the CIA-directed Kiev coup back in 2015. And we know this was driven by George Soros and many others. And it looks like the Charlottesville protests and Kiev riots have the same Soros fingerprints on there. And we know what this is all about. Now, Antifa is out there saying that they're going to hit other cities, maybe Boston or others. And we can see they're once again trying to create chaos, trying to regain the narrative, trying to create something out of thin air. Now, what is the deep state doing right now? They're pushing their agenda with North Korea, Syria, the Middle East. That is a lost cause at this point. They're trying to create something here in the United States. They're trying to create chaos. And this is one gigantic push. If you notice, all of this is being staged within this August month. And we're going to see more of this chaos, more of these false flag events occur. Now remember, a false flag doesn't mean people don't die. It means that they create these things to make you think it was some other group or some other entity that is doing this, when it really is the central bankers, George Soros, the CIA, and many others. So we can expect to see a lot more happen in the next couple of weeks. And I believe that we're going to see this actually accelerate as we move forward. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.